My name is Clara. And if you saw me today, you'd think my life is perfect. A warm home, gentle mornings, a husband who smiles at me like I'm his entire world. But what you see now is not where my story began. My story started in a small, quiet apartment, where loneliness sat next to me like a shadow I couldn't escape. I was 28 when everything changed. 5 years of marriage to Sam, my husband, my friend, the only person who stayed when life felt too heavy. We didn't have a fairy tale beginning. There were no fireworks, no sudden sparks, no dramatic love story written in the stars. Instead, we were built slowly, brick by brick, through patience, struggle, and choices that didn't always make sense to others. Before Sam, life was noise. People came and left, promises broke faster than they were made. And every night I wondered if love was just a beautifully crafted lie. I had learned to appear strong, smiling, talking, laughing, but inside I was tired. Tired of trying, tired of hoping, tired of believing love was something meant for everyone except me. Then Sam appeared, not like a storm, not like a hero, but like calm rain after a long drought. He didn't try to impress me. He didn't say grand words. He just stayed. Quiet, patient, real. And slowly, I started to breathe again. But every story has a test. And ours was about to begin. Sam and I didn't fall in love overnight. It wasn't one of those dramatic movie moments where time freezes and hearts suddenly know. No, it was slow, quiet, almost unnoticed, the way sunrise touches your window before you even open your eyes. We met through a mutual friend at a small cafe. I remember that day clearly, not because of fireworks, but because of the peace he carried. Everyone around us talked loudly, laughed loudly, performed loudly, but he sat there listening, calm, present. He didn't need attention to feel seen. And for someone like me, who spent years trying to prove I was enough, that silence felt comforting, like a place I didn't have to fight to exist. We talked, not about dreams or destiny, but about ordinary things, work, books, tea instead of coffee. He didn't ask to know my story. He waited for me to share it when I was ready. That patience, it was unfamiliar and it scared me, because patience means time. And time means attachment. And attachments? They always betrayed me. But Sam? He didn't force my walls down. He simply stood there quietly, until I opened them myself. I remember the moment I realized my heart had started choosing him. It wasn't dramatic. He didn't say something poetic. He didn't save me from a crisis. He was just sitting in my living room, fixing a wobbly table leg, sleeves rolled up, humming to himself like my home belonged to him too. And it hit me. Love doesn't always arrive with sparks. Sometimes it arrives with safety. We dated simply. Evening walks. Cheap noodles. Talking about life sitting on park benches instead of fancy dinners. And every day, he gave me a reason to trust him without asking for it. Every day, he stitched little pieces of hope back into me. I didn't choose him because he made me feel special. I chose him because he made me feel safe enough to be ordinary. And in a world obsessed with extraordinary, that felt priceless. The day Sam asked me to marry him wasn't extravagant. No rose petals, no candlelit sky, no orchestra in the background. It was early morning. I was half asleep, hair messy, wrapped in a blanket on the balcony. The world outside was waking up. Sleepy sun, birds stretching their wings, city humming softly like it didn't want to disturb the peace. Sam walked out with 2 mugs of tea. He placed one beside me, sat down quietly, and for a moment we just existed. 2 people breathing in the same gentle silence. Then he said, "Clara, I don't promise perfect days, but I promise to stay, especially on the imperfect ones." No speech. No dramatic nail. Just a truth so sincere it felt holy. And that was enough. Because I didn't need a fairy tale. I needed a shelter. We got married in a small garden behind an old community church. Only a few close friends, a simple white dress, sunlight filtering through trees like blessings falling from heaven. I remember standing beside him, holding his hand, feeling the soft tremble in his fingers. People think only brides get nervous, but men get scared too. Scared of failing, scared of not being enough, scared of losing the person they choose forever. And when the vows came, Sam didn't look at the pastor. He looked at me. Whatever life brings, we face it as us. Even if we break, we rebuild. And on days you forget how to love yourself, I'll remember for you. I didn't cry because it was romantic. I cried because for the first time in my life, someone spoke to my wounds instead of my dreams. Marriage didn't feel like signing of forever. It felt like holding hands while learning how to build it, piece by piece, day by day. And if you've ever loved someone so deeply that their breath feels like your home, then you know that kind of moment changes you. It doesn't make you excited. It makes you brave. Marriage did not break us. Life did. It never happens in one big moment. Love doesn't shatter like glass. It fades like sunlight in winter, slowly, quietly, without warning. At first, it was tiny things. Sam started coming home tired. Not exhausted from work, exhausted from life. His smile still existed, but it lived shorter days. His laughter still appeared, but not as freely as before. I noticed it. Of course I did. When you love someone deeply, you learn their shadows as much as you learn their light. But instead of asking, I waited. And instead of speaking, he hid. He would sit on the couch staring at nothing, like his mind was somewhere I couldn't follow. I'd bring him tea, place a hand on his shoulder. He'd smile, but it wasn't the smile I married. It was a polite smile. A smile made of manners, not emotion. One evening, I said softly, "Talk to me." He replied, "I'm just tired." But tired people rest. He was disappearing, and I didn't know how to pull him back without breaking him more. Sometimes love is loud. It fights, it begs, it demands, it cries. But sometimes love is quiet, terrified that if it speaks, it might scare the other person further away. So we kept pretending. Two people living under one roof, loving each other silently, hurting silently, hoping silently. I still cooked his favorite meals. He still kissed my forehead every morning. We still said goodnight like always. But routine is not love. It is what love looks like when it's trying not to drown. And one day, as he walked past me in the hallway, our shoulders brushed. It felt like touching a stranger wearing the body of the man I married. That was the moment my heart whispered a fear I refused to hear. Something is breaking. Not loudly, not violently, just shifting. And sometimes, the quietest cracks destroy the loudest promises. Underscore 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 underscore. Dizzy, stay with me. If stories like this touch your heart, don't forget to follow. More real, raw love stories are coming. Silence can be peaceful. But silence in a marriage? It becomes a ghost that lives between two hearts. Breathing, listening, waiting. We still slept side by side. But our dreams stopped touching. Nights became quiet landscapes where I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering when love turned into guessing. Wondering when his heartbeat stopped syncing with mine, and started drifty. He was simply elsewhere. Some nights, I would reach for his hand under the blankets. And he would hold it. Gently, politely, like two friends reassuring each other they still exist. But love shouldn't feel like acknowledgement. Love should feel like presence. I wanted to scream, to shake him, to pull the truth out of his chest and make it sit between us so we could face it together. But fear closed my throat every time. Fear of being dramatic. Fear of being wrong. Fear of being right. Instead, I whispered small questions into the dark. Are you okay? Do you still feel us? Are we losing something we promised to protect? But those questions never left my lips. They lived only in my mind, aching, heavy, poisonous. Sam would turn in his sleep and wrap his arm around me. And for a brief second, I would breathe again. But his arms felt like memory now, not emotion. Some evenings we'd sit together watching a show neither of us cared about. We weren't watching the screen. We were watching the silence. Testing it. Measuring how loud it could become before one of us broke. And yet amid all the uncertainty, I still loved him. Not lightly, not politely, but fiercely, stubbornly, like a vow carved into bone. I wasn't scared of losing him. I was scared of losing us. The us we built with whispered promises and ordinary moments. Because losing a person hurts. But losing a story you wrote together? that destroys you differently. Underscore 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 underscore. Yellow heart. If this part touched you, follow along. Stories like this deserve hearts that listen. The breaking point didn't come with shouting. It didn't come with a fight or a slammed door. It came with a whisper, a quiet, fragile truth that finally escaped both of us, because silence became heavier than honesty. One evening, Sam sat beside me on the couch, hands trembling slightly, eyes tired in a way I had never seen before. Not the tiredness of work, but the tiredness of holding emotions too long in the dark. "Clara," he said softly, "I don't know what's happening to me. Not us. Not you and me. Me." His voice was breaking in the same places mine had been breaking for months. I didn't answer immediately, not because I didn't care, but because hearing truth after living in quiet fear felt like someone had opened a window in a room where I had been suffocating. I reached for his hand, this time not with fear, but with intention. "You don't have to know," I whispered. "You just have to let me stay while you figure it out." His eyes filled, not with sadness, but with relief. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do in love is admit you're lost. We didn't magically fix everything that night. There was no dramatic reunion, no sudden return to what we once were. Instead, we chose something harder. We chose to rebuild slowly, to speak instead of swallow, to ask instead of assume, to stay not because marriage demanded it, but because love deserved it. And that's what marriage really is. Not the promise that nothing will break, but the courage to mend what does. Some loves burn bright and fast. Ours learn to glow steady in the dark. And if you ever find someone who stays to rebuild with you, not out of duty, but out of devotion, hold them close. Because forever isn't found in perfect moments. Forever is built in the imperfect ones. One honest conversation at a time. Underscore 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 underscore. Sparkles, thank you for listening. If stories like this touch your heart, subscribe and stay. There are more real emotions, more raw journeys, more love worth exploring.